Hello everyone, I'm Denise Love, and here's a little preview of what we're going to be doing today, so let's get started. And today I want to do a color palette challenge, but I want to do it with some custom color palettes that I made out of my own photos. And I have a new class out, and I don't know when you'll be watching this video. It might not be so new by the time you're watching it, but it is a new class out on creating abstract art using your own photos to make custom color palettes from. And my photography tends to be a little darker and moodier and close up and very matte in the look. And I thought, why not just take, say, 25 of my favorite photos that I've taken over the past several years and create some lovely custom color palettes from these. So in the class, I give you the template that I use to make these in Photoshop, and you can just pull your photo in and pull out some colors and create some of your own custom color palettes from your photos. And they don't have to be professional photos. They could be something that you've gone out with your cell phone and taken in your garden. But I've just picked out some of my own, and these are so lovely that they're almost little pieces of art in themselves. Like, you can totally frame these. And so I thought today, and these I printed, these are Moo postcards in the square format. And they're kind of matte. They're like a velvety feel, so I think that might have been an option that I selected, and I'm like, ooh, these feel good. These are actually a lot thicker too than some of the other color cards that I use here on YouTube. But it's really fun, and you can just have these printed. You can have a different photo on every postcard on the front side, and on the back side you can put something like your logo or your name, or just it has to be one image on the back side, but the front side can be all different. So it's a nice way to have a portable portfolio if you're having art pieces that you love and you want to be able to, say, make a business card with a different piece of art on every one that you could hand out. This is a great way to do that. And these are by Moo, M-O-O. And then they just come packaged in a lovely little envelope. And I have picked out one of these. This one with some of my lovely Japanese pigments that I have over here beside me in my studio. And I'm obsessed with these pigment vials, and they're vials of pigment that you make your own paint with, so I can make watercolors out of these and what have you. And so the colors are so lovely that I thought I'm going to pull some of my Kuretakes out and just see what I can get, how close I can get. And I pulled out these three. This one is 49 yellow brown, 44 yellow ochre, 601 grayish blue, and then I did pull out a white gold 906 to maybe get this lighter shade perhaps, or to mix some white in. And then I found a bunch of random singles of these in my drawer that I'd gotten from Sketchbox. And this is J21 Graphite Violet, which kind of looked like this dark, it looks like black though, doesn't it? I almost feel like this is going to be purple. So I pulled out, let's just test this real quick and then I'll talk about what else that I've pulled out. Let me get a little scrap piece of paper and see. Oh yeah, okay, that's close enough. It's a little bit of a purpley, but it's not gonna detract. Okay, so I like that. All right, so that's J21 Graphite Violet. So I don't know. And oh, it says number 261 up here. So I don't know if that's a color in my palettes or not. It was sitting on the side and I thought, ooh, what's that? And then I thought maybe we could do a nice little abstract, and then maybe I could do a little stencil work on top because I'm obsessed with that lately. So I pulled a couple of paints. I like these little fusion paints, which are basically mineral furniture paints, but they're matte and the colors are lovely. And so I pulled out a couple of the sample pots that I had found. So this is Heirloom, this is Seaside, and then I've got this dark color, which is Midnight Blue, that I thought could be that dark color. So that might be some options for my stencil work. I've also got some Mungyo oil pastels over here to the side, and I've got a few pieces of cardboard, and I'm just going to play and see what we can create today. So that's the color palette that I was inspired by. And then I'm gonna set these to the side and we'll do some yummy painting. Let me go ahead and activate these. And we're just gonna see what we get. The colors might be right on or the colors might be slightly off. It's not really a big deal to me if I get it exact or not. So I'm working on a piece of the Hana 9 by 12 paper, and I've just cut it in half and taped it down on my artist panel with some artist tape. And so what is the overall look and feel that I'm going for? I don't know. Ooh, look at that. Look at that color. Whoa. So I'm just going to paint and see where we end up. Not looking to get anywhere specific. I'm looking to enjoy the process more than anything when I do these kind of intuitive paintings, and let's just see like where can we end up with whatever we've got. And I'm using my number 4 Raphael Soft Aqua quill brush. I love a good quill mop brush. Ooh, look at that. That's kind of a mud color. We'll see if we like that or not. I don't know. Kind of doubting that color now, like, what did I do? And when I hold the brush on stuff like this, I don't hold it like a traditional brush where you're kind of holding it like a pencil to use it. I like to hold it further back. I want it to be a little more organic. I'm not looking to control every mark and where it goes, and I kind of roll the brush, and that's just my own personal preference. It's not something I saw anybody else do. It's kind of like, ooh, what would happen if I did this? And I liked it, and I kind of go with it. And sometimes that's the way you discover things that you like, and maybe marks that end up being, you know, unique and interesting to you. You're just playing and experimenting, and you're like, oh, this is what works for me in my art practice. All right, so I don't know. Do I want a lot of blue or a little blue? Let's just see what we get. I kind of like, this is a pretty color blue. I don't know, less blue. Do we want less blue over here? That was the darker shade. I also want to kind of get some of that darker shade and this white. It's not white, it's like a pearlescent white, but it's a little bit lighter shade. So maybe, I've got that all mixed in, but maybe we'll just go back totally, ooh, that's like silver there. Totally contaminating my paints there, so I'm gonna get some of that color off of the top of that. All right. Different, way different than most things that I got going on, isn't it? In a good way, but totally different, and I'm kind of digging it. All right, I think while it's still wet, and I'm using a cotton paper, which I really like using cotton papers, but while it's still wet, I got some corrugated cardboard, and I did some corrugated cardboard on another project not too long ago, and it was crazy good. All right, I'm just gonna get out something random over here and put some pressure on these. Got some tape, because I want them to have some weight to it so that the cardboard soaks up the water and kind of makes the watercolor go into lines. Somebody told me in a video recently that they tried this and it did not quite work for them as well as it's working for me. And I think that might be the issue. They didn't weigh it down. Maybe they didn't do it fast enough. Because you kind of want, let me get something bigger. You want that to be enough pressure so that that is soaking up the water and stuff. Oh yeah, there we go. Whoa! Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry for a bit and let the cardboard do its magic, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've let these sit for quite a while, and that's some of the secret to getting the corrugated cardboard to work too, is walk away and let it kind of just do its magic. And that is magic. Look at that. Oh my gosh. And these are just pieces that came in packaging when I got something in the mail, and I just saved it. So anytime you get some packaging, check out the cardboard and keep some of the cardboard. And finally found the packet. I couldn't find where I put my paper. This is the paper I'm using today, just in case you're curious what pad I had out. Let's see what this one did. I haven't even looked. I'm just hoping they're dry. Oh, super cool. Now, if you look real close at what that does, how cool is that? As an element underneath all the other stuff that we might do on top. It's just super interesting. So keep all your cardboard pieces, and I'm going to grab maybe some stencils, because I don't think I could paint some more on top of that. Could also do some mark making with some pencil, some graphite. I love graphite marks. And this is my 14B Pitt Graphite Matte Faber-Castell pencil. So this is a matte pencil. What I like about the matte pencil is it's not shiny like a lot of the graphites. And the 14B is usually very dark and dramatic. I think my paper's still maybe a little wet. But it's kind of fun just as an element that I do light underneath. That as you get close, maybe you can see it. Maybe it's not the most dramatic piece on there, but as you get close, you're like, ooh, what is that in there that I'm seeing? So that's kind of fun. So I think I'm going to take some stencils. This is a random stencil pack from Amazon. That's an off-brand. It says DIY Decorative Stencil Temp RE Crafts, /6 Damask set. So it's got in here one of these stencils that looks like breezeway blocks from mid-century modern kind of, 60s, 70s houses that I absolutely love. And it's also got some beautiful damask stencils in here that look like damask. And I love those too. So I might combine a damask stencil and a breezeway block stencil and just see what we can create with our different paints that we have in here. So it's such a lovely light palette that we ended up with. And now that that's done, I think that's super cool. So I'm almost wondering, will one of these be too dark? Do I need the darkness in there? Maybe I need that darkness for the contrast. I like that little bit of darkness that I got over here with this cardboard. See, I kind of like this medium color, but is it too dark for what I want? Let's do it over here because this one feels darker. And I'm just going to use an artist sponge with this, and find my little piece of scrap paper. I can just tap that down, and that's all I do. I just tap these down. Okay, do we want it to be the damask? I kind of want, now that I'm looking, well, let's just do this over here. That's why I like to do multiples. Then you can test out ideas and see, did it work? Is it, oh, look at that. And then you can see, is it going to do what you want? Is it going to not do it? That's pretty cool. Is it going to not do what we want? And I'm thinking that's pretty okay there. Oh yeah, I like that a lot actually. Now I don't even know if I'm going to do the damask on top of that because that's such a cool pattern. All right, so love that. So get out your different things and just play. I actually think that's dark enough too. Okay, so this color is so lovely. I think I will do this other one in some of this color because why not? Let's just throw the kitchen sink at it. I like shaking these up and getting them in the lid, and then I've got paint in the lid. All right, so let me just throw that sponge in water. I've got another dry sponge over here. Kind of tap it off on my paper. And I'm just playing. I like to experiment. I like to play. We can overlap stuff. I like to mix my mediums. I'm not trying to get any particular look when I do things like this. I'm like, where can we end up? What can we do? What can we discover in the play? Which is my favorite way to paint. Oh yeah, so that's super fun. Okay, I love that. Love that. I also, let me set that over to the side and let it dry. I pulled out some yellow ochre. You know, it's not exact on my color palette. If you look at the color palette, that's a little bit lighter, but my goal with the color palettes is to be inspired into a direction, not necessarily have to keep everything in the palette. Just be inspired to go that way and then see like where can we end up and what can we get. And look at this. This is Punchinella. This is sequin waste, and I'm kind of just thinking maybe a few dots in here. Oh my gosh. And you know, if stencils aren't your thing, don't use stencils. Do it however you want. I've just become a little bit giddy with the stencils. I just love them. They're fun to play with. They get me a little faster around the piece. I can do this by stamping something round if I want. You play in whatever way inspires you. This is what currently inspires me. I love it. Doesn't bother me a bit to pile on 15 stencils, and sometimes, other times I don't use stencils at all. So it just really, it's your own mood and what you want to play in. Okay, I also want to maybe play a little on top of this. Let me dry these. And this is a little Ranger heated craft tool. I like it because it's super quiet, and it just took a little bit of going over it with the heat, and it's dry. I love that. So I'm kind of feeling like with these, to use some of these little mungo pastels, these are oil pastels, and you know, you do need to hit oil pastels with a fixative, so I use the Sennelier oil pastel fixative, and that's what's going to let that dry. Otherwise, oil pastels never really seem to dry. But I think what I like to do, what I have started to do with some of the pastels, is kind of come along and follow the stencil as a second layer on top of the stencil, and it adds interest and it adds an extra depth and dimension to the stencil work, just to follow on top with a contrasting color, or a color that's lighter than what you've put down, or a color that's darker, and it just adds to the interest of the work, I have discovered. And so I love touching the stencils with a little pastel. So that's all I'm doing here, is just kind of everywhere I've gone, I'm just going to top it with just a little bit of color. Okay, that's super cool. I'm digging that. Look how much little detail that kind of added on top of that. I love that. Super cool. Now I just need to look at it and think, does it need anything else? Are we done? Is it where I want it to be? So I would, if I'm not sure, I would live with it for a while. You don't have to make any snap decisions. Just looking at my colors over here to see would any of these, because I could come back in. Let's see what color. Oh, see, ooh, that's a pretty color. It kind of fits in there with that little shade darker than that. And I could look at it and think, does it need anything else? Because sometimes I like to do splotches. Sometimes I like to run. Ooh, let's do it over here. I'm kind of feeling maybe just some little tiny bit of scribble. Just something that kind of draws your eye through. And if you don't like the scribble, then don't do it on your pieces. It's all about what is going to work for you as you're creating in the moment. And if you do more than one piece, like the 2 pieces, if you think, okay, I loved that, let's do it again, or oh gosh, I did not love that, let's not do it again. That's kind of like how we can, you know, play and discover, and you've got one that you can practice on and one that you can be like, okay, this is my favorite, and so I'm glad I did or didn't do whatever. Oh, I do actually kind of like that. You might not like that, but I do like it. So let's see where we're at. Look at our color palette compared to our lovely piece. I think we did pretty darn good sticking to our color palette. Using these, in my mind, takes away one of the more stressful decisions of creating art is what colors do I use? What materials do I use? I'm stuck right before I even get started because there's so many choices. So how do I narrow those choices down? And narrowing down the colors right up front takes away that mental barrier that I generally would get. Oh, you know what? Now that I'm talking, I'm glad I did that. I feel like we could use some white dots. I feel like removing the barrier of colors helps me get past a very large obstacle in creating. So this is my Posca pen in the white, and I'm just going to just add some lovely little whimsical white dots in here. And because I've got the oil pastel down and possibly some wet paint, I'm going to use my little paint stick and hold it up off the paper so that my hand has somewhere to lean on. And this is just something so slight that you might not have even noticed it until you got up close, and then you could be like, oh, look at that delightful little dot in there. Glad I thought of that. But yeah, remove some of the barriers to creating right up front. And if you struggle with color, or maybe you pick two colors like orange and blue, and you don't know how to pull that together or make it more sophisticated or what else can go with it, this is the way that I can now pull out a set of colors and say orange and blue, but maybe I wouldn't have picked those shades. And now I'm like, oh, I could flesh it out with these other colors and make that a more sophisticated, interesting, in-depth set of colors that I know are going to work because I liked them on my photo that I created that from. And now I have instantly way more interesting art than I was creating before, just using, say, the color wheel and picking, a complementary set of colors or what have you. Okay, just a tiny touch. It's not even like super dramatic, but it was just enough. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's peel the tape. Okay, and so another thing I like about this Hahnemühle paper is I can peel tape without it tearing my paper. And if you have paper where your tape is tearing your paper, just take your heat gun and heat that tape up and it'll let that adhesive release so you don't tear your paper. I love that. Look at this. Rawr. Oh my gosh, this was such a pretty color palette. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh, look at that. Peeling tape is magical. It instantly gives your piece a framing, which elevates it up into, your mind as, look, that's a finished piece of art. Look how beautiful that is. And we could, you don't even have to be finished at this point. This might be the point where you're like, ooh, I think I need a little bit of, gold or whatever. You could come back at this point and then add some more things to it if you wanted. I'm kind of feeling like we're done. And we started with that color palette, so what do you think? I hope that you enjoyed playing with a custom color palette today. And definitely check out the new class, Unleash Your Creativity, Crafting Abstract Art with Color Palettes from Your Own Photos, where you will custom make color palettes from photos that you've taken. Such a great way to really personalize your art and your color palettes into some things that you are going to truly love. And I'll see you next time.